What's up, everyone? Tera Roberts back at it again with Fantasy Alarm, bringing you free agency deep cuts for week 2. When waivers have run and you're scrambling for deep waiver ads, I've got you covered. Let's go ahead and dive right in because we have a ton to talk about. At quarterback, the deep option that I'm feeling this week is Marcus Mariota. Mariota is not going to give you anything remotely impressive through the air, but I don't care about that. I care about the week 1 12 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. His rushing upside gives him such a solid floor. He can give us absolutely nothing through the air and still be a very solid streaming option or QB2 in Superflex leagues. Moving on to running backs, Dontrell Hilliard's work on the ground was non-existent, but he's got a little role in the pass game that makes him a very intriguing roster in deeper leagues. Hilliard caught 3 of 4 targets for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. He showed last year in Derrick Henry's absence that he can be a dynamic player in the pass game, and I think that continues this year. Another option is Kenyan Drake. J.K. Dobbins was close to playing in week 1, but ultimately sat out, and it's very possible that week 2 is his season debut. But Dobbins is not going to return to a very aggressive workload. I expect Dobbins to be eased back into action, very similar to the way that the Giants treated Saquon Barkley last year. And being that the Ravens want to be a run-heavy team, Drake will continue to have a role in the Ravens' backfield. Now, I 100% believe that the San Francisco backfield belongs to Jeff Wilson until Elijah Mitchell returns, but the second-string running back in the 49ers offense is always worthy of a roster. And given Jeff Wilson's injury history of his own, you need to hedge your bets and roster Jordan Mason. Get ahead of the curve. Now, at wide receiver, I am very surprised at the low roster percentage on Sterling Shepard. By no means was his week 1 performance very dominating, and I genuinely do believe that the target hog in this Giants offense is going to be Saquon Barkley. But despite catching a mere 2 receptions on 4 targets, Shepard was actually the leader of this sad Giants receiving corps with 15 fantasy points because those 2 targets resulted in 71 yards and a touchdown. Remember, this was Shepard's first game back from his torn Achilles. This is a good sign. Shepard's career has been marred with injuries, but when he's healthy, he is very productive and worth a roster. Zay Jones may not be the most inspiring waiver wire ad, but heads up, this is the Jones to roster in Jacksonville. I believe that Zay Jones has cemented himself as the wide receiver 2 in Jacksonville, and while the Jags are a rather tragic team, they're a tragic team that has to throw the ball for high volume. Jones caught 6 of his 9 targets for 65 yards on Sunday and can be a streaming option in deeper leagues. I don't believe he'll have a very high ceiling because of lack of touchdown opportunity. But with those targets, he can be a very solid option for a solid floor play. The Titans receiving corps is very interesting to say the least. Robert Woods was barely targeted despite having the highest snap count of the Titans receivers. Treylon Burks was 3 of 5 for 55 yards, but on just a 37% snap count, meaning that they want to use the rookie. They're just working on easing him into regular season play. But Kyle Phillips was the big winner, going 6 of 9 for 66 yards. Phillips made a name for himself during preseason, and it appears to have carried over. If you're looking for someone who can just get you some points in a pinch, I think he's a decent, very low-rostered option. And in Rondale Moore's absence, Greg Dortch stepped up to the tune of 7 receptions on 9 targets for 63 yards on a 91% snap count. If Moore remains sidelined, Dortch is a viable option in deep leagues. Monitor the injury report and act accordingly. And at tight end, last week I was very big on Gerald Everett being the tight end to grab on waivers. That did in fact work out, and fantasy managers did snatch him up off waivers this week, but Hayden Hurst is still very available. Hurst had 5 receptions on 8 targets for 46 yards, and he looked very good while doing it. The Bengals are looking to bounce back after a very poor week 1 performance, and they play Dallas, a team that is in complete disarray. This could be a great week for them and for Hayden Hurst. And that wraps things up for this week's free agency deep cuts. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Alarm, and come back next week for more deep waiver wire ads.